#idataengineer.
My name is Daniel. Some call me the Data Janitor, and I'm building Pipeline Data Engineering Academy, the world's first data engineering bootcamp. Not one of today's data engineers grew up as a kid imagining becoming one. I definitely didn't. That made me think about how others look at our line of work, and I feel the best way to explain it is through asking a handful of practitioners about their journey and how their work look like.
Who are you and what do you do now?
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me. My name is András Dőtsch. Currently, I work for Morgan Stanley as a senior KDBQ developer in the Quantitative Investment Strategies data team. This is the data platform for financial research and algorithmic trading and backtesting.
Okay, what is KDB?
So KDB is an in-memory and on-disk time series database system, also a programming system with a very powerful vector-oriented programming language called Q. Most KDB setups have real-time data feeds, a real-time database, historic database, and various real-time subscribers that usually do data cleansing and real-time data analytics or make trade decisions. Almost all KDB setups also have batch data processing, which is usually for backfilling the historic database. KDB has many financial applications, but it has also more and more telecommunication and IoT applications, and heavily used as a backend for machine learning.
Okay. How do you end up as, I might call you a data engineer, I don't know if you feel like that, but how do you end up doing this?
I have a math background. I graduated in mathematics at University of Szeged in 2000. Later, I used as an algorithm designer and developer. Also, I had some exciting years in telco in a Norwegian startup. Then I ended up in Morgan Stanley in mid-2007. And in Morgan Stanley, there are two vector-oriented languages that are heavily in use. One of them is A+, and the other is Q and KDB. I first heard about this stuff in Morgan Stanley and immediately became interesting because it is a very different kind of programming. So it's vector-oriented as opposed to object-oriented. So you do all your programming with vector operations. You hardly ever use loops in a traditional way. So there are a completely different thing called adverbs in these languages to replace loops. And using while loops is almost as like using go-to statements, if you know what I mean. So it's strongly discouraged. I haven't used for a very long time, but I practiced the language. I learned the language. I started in commodities IT as a C++ developer, and I did many things. But I ended up as a dynamic index strat or algorithmic index strat, which means I worked on trading algorithms. For those trading algorithms, the data backend was KDB. So I used KDB there a lot. From last April, I switched to a full-time KDB developer.
Thank you. What projects or tools or trends excite you these days? But it seems like that KDB is really in the focus for you now.
Absolutely. So from KDB's point of view, maybe big memory is the next interesting thing. Intel Optane persistent memory, which is basically can be used both ways. Can be used as a hard disk, but much faster than any SSD. This is what you can get, but slower than DRAM. For real-time applications and ingesting real-time data, it is very, very interesting.
And how do you see the role of engineering changing related to data?
I'm not sure I have a very good answer for that, to be honest.
I think nobody has. We just try to do our best.
There will be much more data, and I think there will be much more data what we have to process real time. That's my hope, because KDB is very well suited for that. So that will be interesting. I would like to see more and more IoT applications.
And what piece of advice would you give someone who is just trying to get into this field, data and engineering somehow combined?
I don't consider myself as a typical data engineer. So as a KDB developer, I spend most of my time programming in Q. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer the question, but I think you have to be proficient at least one or two tools that are powerful enough to solve most of your problems.
Do you listen to music while you are in the flow?
Absolutely. I usually listen to some electronic music, but not the modern ones. So I like Vangelis and Kraftwerk the most. But sometimes I just put on the headphones. That's enough to. I'm so used to it that I focus when it's on that it's enough in itself.
Thank you.
If you are a data engineer and you feel like sharing your story, reach out. I'd be happy to chat with you.
#IDataEngineer